Breakfast Call Dialogue, widening your horizons.
Hello and welcome back to Duran ASEAN. You're still with Gowri.
And Grace.
And we are, of course, moving on to our ABC dialogue for this morning.
And this topic that we're going to discuss about, it's going to be very interesting. And then something just happened a few days ago.
Yes, something did happen, and it's in regard with Germany.
Mm-hmm.
So before we start, maybe we can talk about what we know or what comes to our mind when we think of Germany first.
But I'm sure for you, Gowri, you will think of football, and then I'm going
I
to
was
talk
hoping
about
you
this.
wouldn't say that.
You were hoping, but I'm so sorry. That's the first thing that came in my mind. So other than football, Gowri, what can we talk about in terms of history or culture?
But what comes to your mind when I say Germany?
Well, I'm so sorry to announce this, but beer comes in my mind, and the sausages.
I don't think you have to be sorry. They're probably pretty proud of their beer culture that's happening there, especially with Oktoberfest.
Yeah, it
That
happens
is
just
a worldwide thing.
Mm-hmm.
So apart from that, the German language is also very popular among Malaysians.
Definitely, a lot of people are learning German language as second language, apart from French and also Chinese. So it's pretty popular among many people as well.
And also, they won the recent World Cup.
Yes, congratulations to Germans as well.
So what we are going to focus today is, of course, the celebration of the fall of the Berlin Wall. And that is a historic moment in the German history. And we are going to look at it historically, also culturally, and how West and East Germany, according to a lot of theories, still remain divided until today, although the Berlin Wall fell 25 years ago.
Well, it happened 25 years ago, like you mentioned, but then I guess it's the differences between the culture and the people's mindset from East and the Western, that they still find it very hard to understand each other because of strong histories that they actually do share together.
And on August 13, 1961, actually the communist government of the German Democratic Republic, or the GDR, which was in East Germany, started building this wall made of barbed wire and concrete, and they called it the anti-fascist bulwark. Bulwark actually translates to like a barrier or a wall. And this was erected between the East and the West, and the official purpose supposedly was to keep the Western fascists from entering East Germany and undermining the socialist state that they had there.
So it was divided dependent on the different two ideologies that they actually carried in Germany itself. But after that, it did indeed influence people's mindset and their movement and the system and the government and the structure itself, and also as well as economy.
And to look at this partitioning of Berlin, it happened, of course, after the Second World War that ended in 1945. And a lot of people were also leaving West Germany at that time because they felt like there were better opportunities in the West, in the Western countries, in other parts of Europe, in U.S. itself. U.S. had a very good relationship with the west of Germany at that time. So then a lot of people kept crossing over, and especially from people from East Germany were moving on to the west of Germany because
and then they were under Soviet Russian dominance.
Yeah, and then they also thought that, there are better opportunities there. It's kind of like moving from a small town to a big town to a big city, trying to make it there. A lot of young kids especially, which is why if you see most of the people in East Germany are actually the older generation. So, and because of all these people moving in huge groups and all, they decided, you know what, we are going to just build a wall and separate the West Germany and East Germany, because we don't want you guys to bring in your ideology into here, because we are different and you guys are different, and we want to separate that properly.
But it's really sad because Germany itself, it has the quite homogeneous population with very much a similar, history, culture, character structure, work ethics, and then, but it was divided after Hitler's Germany defeat in World War II. And like you mentioned, yes, of course, in terms of standard of living in the West is so much higher, and then they have higher quality of living lifestyle there than compared to East, and that's when it attracted more people from East to come over to the West. But it was a sad story when the Berlin Wall was set in between to divide the West and East Germany. And of course, like I mentioned shortly before, in East Germany, it was under Soviet Russian dominance and a socialization of the means of production. So these two different ideologies, and the people are from different background, even though they have the same history. I'm sorry, and also by dividing the West and the East, it also created another historical stories beyond that.
And for the existence of the West Berlin, which was what they call a capitalist city deep within the communist East Germany. So the Russians actually began maneuvering to drive the United States, Britain, and France out of the city for good. And in 1948, a Soviet blockade of West Berlin aimed to serve the Western allies out of the city. And because of all these so many different conflicts that were happening at that time, and eventually they called it off in 1949. But after a decade of calm, they had another tension that happened in 1958, and for the next 3 years, they started having all these refugees problems again, and they have all these skilled workers who were leaving the region, and they couldn't come up with a proper resolution for that. And there was even one scenario where they had 2,400 people who went from East Germany to West Germany in just one day.
Oh, wow.
Because that's how bad the situation was at that time. So their premier at that time, who was, his name is Khrushchev, he gave the East Germany, the government there, permission to stop the immigrants by closing its border. And just within 2 weeks, actually, they roped in a lot of army, a lot of police officers, and also a lot of volunteer construction workers to build this wall made of barbed wire and concrete. And that was the period that marked the separation of the West Germany and East Germany.
And also, can you imagine what will happen to you if you ever cross the Berlin Wall? There was set, like, a long time ago. People would just get shot, and then it was almost impossible because the wall it was set between the West and the East was pretty firm, and it was almost impossible after it was established for people from the East to cross to West, of course.
And that's a very valid point, and there is an article here which supports that, where they say that there was not only one, but there were 3 checkpoints along the entire border. It was very heavily guarded, and it was impossible. It was just impossible to get from the east to the West Berlin unless you go through those 3 checkpoints. And even after each of that, you have to go through so many diplomats, you have to go through so many officials, and they ask you a ton of questions. And after all that, they can still turn you back if your reason is not valid enough. And it's just difficult to go into the other region. But the construction of the Berlin Wall actually did not stop their refugee problems. They still had a lot of people moving from east to the west, and it was not a proper resolution to resolve the crisis. And actually, President Kennedy at that time voiced out saying that a wall is definitely better than a war. So he was, in a way, complimenting the Germany for resorting to building a wall instead of having a civil war in the country.
And then we've been talking about the division between Western and East and how it is different from each other. And also, it is also important to highlight that November 19 was the celebration of the fall of the Berlin Wall, and I think many people know that pieces of Berlin Wall is actually it placed many countries to remember, and then to what happened exactly, and then divided Germany before. So less than a year later, this Federal Republic of Germany and the German Democratic Republic, I mean, we know as West and East Germany, they actually would sign the unification treaty that joined the two together again, and then they wanted to commemorate and also recall that moment of the falling of Berlin Wall. So they placed each piece in the different countries.
So let's look at why the Berlin Wall fell in the first place. First of all, there were, of course, lots and lots of people getting shot, getting killed. And it was also known as the Death Strip at one point, because you don't go there unless you have a death wish. It was that heavily guarded and that dangerous. And it seems that they had...
Definitely, the wall was really a ugly scar in the city of Berlin itself.
It was, and from a little statistic that I have here from 1961 until the wall came down in 1989, they actually had 5,000 East Germans who successfully crossed the border, and they did it by jumping out of windows of like a train, climbing the wall, climbing over the barbed wire. Some even resorted to flying in hot air balloons to the western part.
Well, as much as they put on so much effort, it also shows how frustrated they were to cross the wall itself.
It is. I mean, we're talking about an entire country here, and you have your friends, you have your family, just building a wall and trying to keep two parts separated.
Definitely.
Just abruptly, because the wall just came up in a few days.
Yes.
And that, of course, cannot stop people from going over and visiting, because they want to see their family, they want to see the people they love, and when I guess they will find a way
like
to do it. Yeah.
And also, I can sort of relate to this story because we also have a barrier between South and North Korea, and my older generations, they do have their own relatives and family members across the border, and in fact a lot of people did want to and also try to escape from the North Korea to see their family members, as well as to be able to hoping for the reunification with members from South Korea. And it's really saddening because the border is still going on. However, this case, even after the falling of the Berlin Wall, and then it sort of shows that it remarks the reunification between the Western and East Germany, like you mentioned, Gowri, it's still divided. The people's mindset and the political system and the structure is still remained almost the same.
So we are going to take a short break. And when we come back, we are going to talk about how the wall has fallen, but things, they still remain divided until today.
ASEAN Breakfast Call Dialogue, widening your horizons.
Hello and welcome back to Durian ASEAN. You're with Gowri.
And you're still with Grace.
And we are still discussing about the Berlin Wall.
Yes. And let's make it more energetic and lively, because we'll be talking about the celebration of this falling of the Berlin Wall.
That's right. November 1989, as the Cold War began to slowly cool down on the Eastern Europe, a spokesman for the East Berlin's Communist Party actually announced that there will be some minor changes in the city's relation with the West. And what's interesting is starting midnight that day, he said that the citizens of the GDR from the East were free to cross the country's borders. And of course,
so you finally give the freedom.
Everyone was happy. Everyone was drinking beer, of
course.
And they were drinking champagne, and they were chanting, "Open the gate."
So since then, people started celebrating this special day, 9th of November.
And in that weekend alone, the moment they opened the gate and they decided to connect East and West again, they had 2 million people who went from East Berlin to West Berlin. Can you imagine?
That is really, really special day for
they
people.
were waiting that long to get across and
Definitely.
to finally do away with this ridiculous border that was there.
Like, it's funny how you mentioned it's a ridiculous, but whether that's true, it could have been, unnecessary to establish the wall between the West and East just because they have a different ideology and then the political systems
I can actually imagine the whole scenario in your head, this guy going up there saying, guess what, you guys can cross the border, and everyone's like, wait, what? Are you sure? Like, it's over now, no more wall, no more checkpoints, that feeling of
you don't need to go through the long procedure to go to one to the other region.
And the reunification of East and West Germany was made official on October 3rd, actually, on the 1990, almost 1 year after the Berlin Wall. But of course, it officially fell. The announcement was made on November 9, 1989.
Mm-hmm. And until now, Gowri, do you know what are the main highlights that people do celebrate on this special day? Like, there are a few points here. Well, it already happened around the 9th of November, and also along the former course of a Berlin Wall, a new temporary Berlin Wall will be built with thousands of illuminated balloons. So just to commemorate and remember the moment of this special day. So they will have a border of light, gathering spots, an open air exhibition, and also Philharmonica with the Sir Simon Rattle Street Festival, and also permanent exhibition at the Berlin Wall Memorial.
And I also have some pictures here, and it really looks like a big party. It looks like a rave concert. You look at all those fireworks, the lights, the amount of people who showed up. But this also, of course, apart from all this celebration, has a very positive message, not only to Germany, but for the whole world, especially like what Angela Merkel has said here. She said, nothing and no one can stand in the way of freedom. We are the happiest people in the world.
And in fact, she is a German chancellor, and she's actually from the East.
Right. Yeah. She's from East Germany, and other officials actually laid roses in the remaining sections together with her, where they went to the whatever that still remains of the Berlin Wall. They placed roses there just to commemorate, and she also said that it's very hard to forget what happened, but we can take it the positive way. She also added that we can change things for the better, and this is also a message for Ukraine, Iraq,
of course,
and all other places, other countries in the world that's having a civil war or some sort of misunderstanding within the country itself, and like you mentioned, also within North Korea and South Korea.
Well. And also, this particular wall, did not just go through the heart of Berlin, but indeed it completely encircled all of Western Berlin. So for the 20 years, it stood 20 years that it stood there, some 200 people died at the wall. And in memory of those who were killed, and there was a service which was held at 11 a.m. on Sunday, and also, of course, on 9th of November 2014. And all those representatives from different regions actually were there to celebrate this particular day. And also another memorial along the formal border was dedicated at the Groß-Glingnickel See. I hope I pronounced it correctly because it's German. And also the formal border fence and a piece of wall were installed this year as a memorial.
And what's also the thing that we were going to highlight was how they somehow still remain different till today. Of course, the wall is gone, and supposedly there is no more segregation between the East and the West. They are integrated. They've come together as one. But according to some statistics and numbers, it seems that the differences are still very, very distinct, actually, when you look at the analysis here in terms of lifestyle, in terms of job, education. East and West both have a completely different story to tell.
That's correct. I mean, despite of the wall's fall, the Germany unity a year later, and 2 trillion euros pumped into the formerly communist east of the country, there are still lingering east and west political, economic, and social divisions in the city and the country itself. And voting patterns in the East Berlin and the Eastern Germany are different. And there is still an east to west income and a wealth gap, of course, and also unemployment is nearly twice as high in the east. So it's still, we can say that East is still following up, still try to catch up to the West, but still I will say East is still poorer than the West. So for 40 years of division left there marks on many people, and also the differences might be diminishing as years pass, but only at a lot slower than anyone would have dreamed 25 years ago.
And according to Daniela Augenstein, who is a spokeswoman for Berlin's Department of Urban Development, she explained that each side also historically used different kind of street lights, and even from the street light itself you can tell the difference between East Germany and West Germany. So if you look at West Germany, the street lamps used there is actually a lot more environmental friendly.
In the East?
No, in the West.
Okay.
Yeah. So that actually reflects the Western German environmental civil movement, which happened in the 70s and 80s when East Germany was still segregated. So they were not a part of that, and they did not participate, and therefore their street lamps still remain different till today. Whereas if you go to the West, it's totally different. So even from a little thing like that, it tells us so much of story, so much history about the two parts. And also at that time, actually, East Germany was heavily polluted, and they were very reliant on the coal industry. But today, Eastern Germany is actually the heart of the country's renewable energy transformation.
Well, talking about the environment itself, the Germany has always been have highlighted this issue of environment.
And also to look at further differences, I think we'll go through some of the statistics here. In terms of disposable income. It seems that West Germany actually has more disposable income than East Germany, and it's also a bit hard for Eastern German companies to compete with their Western counterparts who are way more developed because the capitalism kind of came too fast for them. And yeah, in terms of technology, resources, it seems that they are more well off compared to the eastern part. So that affects the income levels of the Germans today, where the West is still making more money than people in the East.
And also talking about just going back to renewable energy, and like I mentioned, that the environment has always been the crucial issue in German politics. And especially when the Ukraine nuclear power plant caused for fear and a panic throughout the Europeans after its meltdown in 1986. The Berlin Wall was still standing, and soon after, the United Germany evolved as a world leader both in climate politics as well in the development of technological solutions. And we mentioned shortly about this German Chancellor Angela Merkel. After the 2011 nuclear disaster in Fukushima, which is in Japan, she reversed her previous stance and announced that Germany would strive to become the first industrialized country to abolish both coal and nuclear power as energy sources. Renewable energy is important, and those sources are to fill the void. So succeeding would likely be impossible if unification had not happened.
So it's like you mentioned that actually came from East Germany, which is the heart of the renewable energy now. So let's talk a little bit about the unemployment rate. I think based on the disposable income just now, it's easy to guess which part of Germany that is having the higher unemployment rate. And well, unfortunately, it is the eastern part of Germany. The West Germany also have a lot of young people who have moved out from the east, who went over to the West to look for more job opportunities. And this has actually decreased the amount of job-seeking Eastern Germans. So they, of course, have a higher unemployment rate compared to West Germany, and this is true until 2013. So we don't know about this year yet.
Mm-hmm.
So demographically, of course, we know that the percentage of young people is higher in West Germany because it's like the place for all the young people to be in. They have the young people in the rural Eastern Germany actually say that they are kind of forced to move to the bigger cities because if they continue staying on in East Germany, they have a problem with low wages. They have a problem looking for a job, and therefore moving to the West makes it a lot easier for them to survive.
And then just to hype up this discussion, we can go back to our football topic a little bit because it's interesting to find what's happening in the football. And then we do know about the Bundesliga, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of a population from East and the West is also different. In the East, it's drastically underrepresented in German professional soccer, and the reasons are pretty much obvious because of their weak finances and the mismanagement and the lack of necessary sporting networks. However, of course, in the West, the stories are different. They are highly funded, and then therefore they can trade more better footballers out there to be able to produce really good football players.
So if you're talking about Bundesliga, actually, that it will be the first league team, and most of the teams there, if Bayern Munich, Leverkusen, Schalke, or even Dortmund.
You started with naming all the list.
I think it's there on the logo. And all these are actually from teams from West Germany who are in the first league. And I think throughout the entire list, you don't find any football team actually from East Germany unless you go into second or third league football. So the first one is still dominated by all the teams in West Germany. And yeah, even with football, it tells you a lot of history about even the relationship between the East and the West. So to look at the number of foreigners, of course, it's pretty much like the young population. There are a lot more foreigners in West Germany who have come in looking for a job, looking for income. And even most foreigners who live in Germany have actually their arrival has decreased average ages, and some of the factors significantly explain the smaller foreign population in the East. And I have to talk about this.
What is it?
Before
Gowri?
the fall of the Berlin Wall, Western Germany actually invited many Turks to live in the country as guest workers, and
Why is
most of
that?
them never left. And the reason I bring this up is because my favorite football player, Mesut Ozil, his parents were Turkish.
Exactly.
And he's of Turkish descent.
Uh-huh.
So that also goes back to what happened here, how Berlin, how the Western Germany actually invited all these Turks to come in and work, and they just settled down there. So if that didn't happen, we wouldn't have an amazing football player in the Germany team today.
And then they would not have won the World Cup. So this German reunification could have gone so much worse. I mean, traditional and economic changes are slow. But if you look at the new generations, you will see much less of divide from East and the West. Young generations, they really don't, I mean, even if they don't know about the historical facts, no matter how they are educated in the institutions, the young generations, they are just changing the mindsets in the people people from East or West of Germany. And this person called Gola recently worked on the multimedia project called Germany 25. And also that features 25 young Germans and it's what they actually think about their country, Germany. So majority of them consider the country's north and south to be further apart than East and West. And their parents, however, are much less progressive.
And there is a very good German film on this. Actually, I don't know if you've seen it. It's called The Lives of Others.
Oh.
And that actually tells the story of an East Berlin writer who was kept separated from his girlfriend because of this Berlin Wall. And then it was a period movie on and there was lots of police, lots of soldiers guarding the border, and also the district was actually quite close to the wall. And it seems that the western part of Germany till today is the more liberal one, whereas the east, probably because of most of the people there are from the older generation, so they are still quite strict, and they are quite old-fashioned in a way. Conservative,
Yes.
and in the way that they think, the way that they do things. Their lifestyle is also a lot more laid back. And one of the article here actually says that
and also, I mean, we are looking at a lot of articles here, and just to summarize everything is definitely East Germany is still lagging behind, but there has been lots of progress definitely. But not only economically, if you consider that in some German cities, about 96% of industrial jobs disappeared within only half a year after Germany unified, and also cost of unification was high in the short run. But even if you just look at it economically, the benefits will largely outweigh the disadvantages in the future.
So I was going to actually talk about East Germany and how, yes, we talked about it. It's still conservative and everything, but they also have their own fair share of success stories. Like for example, Leipzig and Dresden have emerged as quite prominent cities since the fall of the wall, and they became a very thriving regional center in their own right, in their own sense. And many have also been carefully restored after the years of neglect, after they suffered under communism, and now they have a very, very expanding, very flourishing tourist trade. A lot of people are going there to visit because it has the more
historical values
and more of like what Germany is all about. Usually when you visit a country, you don't want to just go to all those touristy places. Like if you go to if you come to Malaysia, for example, if you only stay in KL, you only get
much experience
exactly. You just get the city life, the train, the bus. Unless you go to like Kelantan or something, then you get that whole feeling of the village and what the culture here is all about. So in that case, East Germany actually has the edge there, the advantage. And many East Germans also appear to, of course, be in favor of their chancellor, who is an Easterner, like you mentioned. And a lot of the experts, political experts, said that the country's main political parties have actually largely failed the region because the politicians appear to be clueless as they were on the day that the wall fell. And although the wall may have completely disappeared from Berlin now, and
the wall is disappeared, but the pieces are all around the country, Like the parts of the wall can be found in Berlin, of course. And just one piece there, and you can also see one in the other part of Germany, which is in south. It's called Taito, and in Los Angeles in America, Washington D.C., Jamaica as well, Indonesia, Madrid, London, South Korea, Israel, and South Africa, which is the Cape Town, and also Argentina. So all those countries, they still do keep all the pieces of Berlin Wall.
And what's like we're going back to what Angela Merkel has said. She actually told the German TV on Saturday that she is actually feeling an incredible feeling of happiness. And according to Pope Francis in Rome, he told the people in St. Peter's Square, in regard to the fall of Berlin Wall, of course, he said, we need bridges, not walls. So when you're having a misunderstanding with your counterpart, with your country, try and resolve the issue and try and build the bridges, find that understanding there, and not just build a wall and shut it out.
Yeah, and also it is quite possible that all these things, in terms of economy and the political, and also regarding this environmental issues, that can actually come together, because the falling of Berlin Wall, it still means something to the people in Germany, from whether they're from west or east, and they really, because even the political system now, the famous chancellor is from the also east, and there will be some kind of bridge will be set between the west and east to be able to understand better.
And among those going to the west now, it seems that they have led quite normal, productive lives in the east, but they just want more challenge. They want to. It's also about adapting to the Western society and its increased demands for productive and competitive skills and spirits. So that's all the time that we have for our ABC dialogue this morning.
Yeah.
And
you can listen back to our these discussions and also our previous segments at thedurianasean.com, and then please download our TuneIn app, and don't forget to it'll be really great to receive your feedbacks on our social channel on the Facebook and YouTube, and as well as with Twitter.
And this is Gowri.
And this is Grace.
We will see you tomorrow.
Have a good Friday.
We will see you on Monday morning.
Have a good Friday.